Staying with that story, the South African Police Service has cleared Fezile Ngubane of any involvement in the Olorato Mongale murder case, revealing that criminals used SIM cards registered in his name. This highlights the importance of the regulation of interception of communications and provision of Communication-Related Information Act, which regulates the interception of communications and requires telecommunications service providers to verify users' identities before activating SIM cards. Previous investigations revealed that most SIM cards in the country are not RICA compliant. And for more on this, we now speak about the role RICA has played in this murder case. We now speak to Siphumelele Zondi, who is a multimedia lecturer at the Durban University of Technology and joins us now via our video link. Siphumelele, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, let's start off here. The synopsis of this case also involves the issues around communication and how that communication was used at the same time. Also talking about the use of SIM cards that didn't belong to the main suspects in this crime. What is your take when it comes to these SIM cards which were used that actually did not belong to these two main suspects in this murder case?
Hello, and thank you very much for inviting me. What you realize is that a lot of people don't seem to take the RICA process seriously, and what seems to have come out in this particular case is that some of the individuals that were involved in this particular case met the individual whose SIM cards were used, and that's Fezile Ngubane, and they would then use his ID and RICA the SIM card using his details. And what you'd find is that a lot of people don't seem to register SIM cards according to their names or their own details, or they would use SIM cards that are already registered under other people's names. And as you mentioned earlier, that the RICA process, a lot of it is fraught with a lot of that, where you sometimes even find people going to merchants to buy SIM cards that are already RICA'd, that are already registered, and then they use those on their devices. And in this particular case, there's evidence that it can actually land people in trouble if they do that.
And what does it say, Siphumelele, about the RICA Act, where it's quite clear that identity can be manipulated for the use of telecommunications?
The RICA Act in the first place was meant to curb crime, and the reason it came into being was because there's such high levels of crime here in South Africa, and it was to try and link some of the perpetrators who would be using mobile phone telephony or SIM cards to communicate with each other, and then link those SIM cards to the criminals themselves, as the police tried to do in this particular case. And then once they have done that through the use of the SIM card, then they can possibly be on their way to solving a crime. So that's the importance of it, and that's why we've been told that we need to register our SIM cards, and you can't actually use a SIM card that is not registered. You can even register it yourself, right? But what happened here is that people register for other people. They go to a place down the road where they can find a SIM card, and then they find a SIM card registered to who knows who and what they've done in the world. And then that SIM card gets traced to you when that individual is then wanted. So it is a cause for concern when it comes to the registration of SIM cards.
How waterproof is RICA? And in this instance, would you say that RICA is failing?
It actually isn't waterproof and proof, and there have been some people who have criticized the RICA process and the fact that it can also lead to surveillance of individuals. We do know that, for example, a couple of years ago, the journalist from Amabungane who took a case to court when it was found that their phone conversations with their sources had been intercepted and without their knowledge. And the court's ruling is that in such a case, then the individuals whose conversations would have been intercepted need to be alerted, maybe not before, but it should be done at some point, could be after the case itself, to say, listen, there was information we're looking for, you were a person of interest, we found that you're not a person of interest, we went to court, we applied to intercept your conversations, and court granted us that permission to so it can't just be done without the approval of law enforcement. So it's not watertight, and there has been some criticism that what if, even though the court has done this ruling that it needs to be done with the court's permission, that it gets done without the court's permission, and you find that your privacy as a private citizen of the state has been infringed upon by those that decide to intercept your conversations.
And Siphumelele, coming to this matter again, and where crimes were committed using someone else's identity through the registration of these SIM cards, would you say that RICA is failing?
We can't say that RICA is completely failing, right? What we can say is that maybe it's our use of the RICA process, in the sense that we are not abiding by the process the way it has been intended, where you register your own details, or where you don't register other people under your private details, and sometimes even register strangers, or purchasing already registered SIM cards because they're not supposed to be registered already when you go and purchase them. Maybe that is is what we're missing an understanding on the fact that it is linked to an individual, and that individual could possibly even have committed other crimes that you might then have to take the fall for, because you went and bought a SIM card, or you went and took a SIM card registered under another person's name.
Siphumelele, thank you so much for your time and for that insight. That's Siphumelele Zondi there. He is a multimedia lecturer at the Durban University of Technology, just giving us an insight there when it comes to the false uses of identity through the registration of SIM cards in the country.